stream. Let's see. Do, 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 do. And then, yep. So let's start it. And then
Mm-hmm.
let's start the Facebook. So we're in two places at once. How good is that?
Okay.
All right. All right. I think we're live. Hello, my doctor, Mataz
Hello,
Galicic,
hello.
Ga-
Yes,
from in
Galicic,
London.
yes.
Galicic. How are you, mate?
Yes. Very good, thank you. Very good.
Awesome. I know you're a doctor, PhD, but today
Uh,
we're not going to discuss about your music. Maybe on another time we
y-
could discuss about your PhD. Tell
yes,
us
that's
something
right.
about the
Yeah.
music you do.
Oh, music. That's a big topic actually, and
Yeah.
I know I suggested to you just to talk about one specific topic at the time. Yeah. And
Mm.
it's one of my longest hobbies I have. And music has, in a way, always been my hobby. Even when I was a kid, always listened, to radio and sounds, and then um, I found tape decks. Back in the 80s, tape decks were very cool, so I started recording my own music. Uh, and I guess this search for music and sounds, it continued. So I didn't just stop with listening to mainstream music. I wanted more. I wanted something different. And I think this wanting brought me to where I am today.
Mm. Mm. So, so what? How is the music you're making different from the mainstream music that you grew up with?
Well, if we talk about mainstream music, if you define mainstream music, what would that be? It's just music that's made by people who tend to be popular, but what makes them popular is media, and they make music just to be popular, and the main motivator there is money. Uh,
Mm.
so I was always looking for something different, for sounds, for music people make because they want to, because they like it, and because they enjoy it. Uh, Not saying some mainstream musicians they don't enjoy their music, but it's their profession, and they basically make music to make money, and to make money, the music industry is involved in that and all that stuff. So how does somebody become popular? They play their songs on charts, people buy music, consume product and stuff like that. Um, the difference between what I do is because I guess because it's a passion I have, and because I like working with people, I like connecting with people, and I like, as I said, as I always say, I like something different, and that doesn't just include one genre of different music, or some people call it alternative music, which means it's not usually played on mainstream radio stations or TV and stuff like that, but it's more marginalized. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember when you performed for us when we were living in that church in London, and yeah, if I remember, your music is more. It's like a happening, right? It's like it
Mm,
happens in a particular space at a particular time,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's always different. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. And yeah, I remember playing over in London, was it back in 2006, I think it was. Uh, when I used a balloon, I think it was a balloon as a sound source, and I was using balloon for
Yeah, yeah, I
quite a
remember the
couple of
balloons.
years. uh, and yeah, it's kind of, you're right. Yeah, it's kind of playing live. It brings this moment of presence, and it brings this moment of there and then, and I really like that. I like performing live, for example. I like rehearsing, of course, as well, but performing live is something I can bring forward. And in terms of music or sounds, I moved from balloons to other things. I used to use like kitchen utilities for a while. You can see some videos on YouTube. I was using fork and spoon and stuff like that, just as a basic sound source. Then I used to use some like computer hardware as well as sound source, until I moved into more layers of music, I would call it. And that got particular interest in me because with layers of music, I can add more stuff. I can yeah expand. So actually, all these layers of music, or people call it harsh noise, it's called. Uh, it basically has no limits in it. So I can bring in any sound source, and put it into some sort of a sound wave or sound unit or sound wall or whatever you call it, and create something I like. Uh, so it's not necessary. It's not necessary always people like what I do, but some do, and some people find it very intimidating because they're not familiar with it, uh, because they don't know anything about it, or they know very little about it, and they have a reaction to it. And if somebody new listens to this music or these sounds, it's good if they're just open to it, you know. Because on one hand, it's easy to be, used to listen to certain type of music, but people are not always very open to other types of music. And if they are, they will discover a lot more. There's a lot out there that can be researched. I'll put it like that.
So is there like a do you have like a community of people that does similar kind of music to you?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So do you have like a community of other people who create similar music to you, or is yours more like unique, like your own thing?
Well, it's unique, but you know, what is a unique musician without a community? So it's always good to connect with people, and yeah, to expand on that note, yeah, there's always a community. So, for example, with so-called noise and experimental music, there is a community for that. Uh, More than local community, because it's usually just based on individuals doing their own stuff, so they connect locally. Uh, it's more nowadays that because of the internet, it's possible to connect more easily internationally as well, or globally. Uh, Back in the 1990s, before the internet, I used to run a tape label called Abnormal Tapes, and actually another one called Fuck You Tapes. And the way to communicate with people was through letters. So I did a lot of tape trading. So I actually dubbed tapes and put them in envelopes, send them around, and got other people's music back, and that was really really a lot of fun.
You're the OG, like mixtape. It's so good.
I am, yeah, I
Analog.
am.
what
Uh,
what do you think of this analog digital thing? Because there seems to be a lot of analog coming back, like vinyl is coming back. Is there like a big difference between the two? The sounds you can make using analog recording versus digital recording?
hmm. Well, with analog in terms of sounds, I'll just tell you my experience and my point of view. Yeah, uh, like analog has always been there for the last, I don't know, 50, 60 years, or maybe longer. Um, and it's, I guess it's always going to be there. And digital came format itself, and computers and all the technology came in last 10, 20 years. And even in the 90s, when you had the computer, you couldn't really do much with it because you had the computer and you didn't have the software. So you had to have the software to use the computer. And computer as such is just a box if it's not used. So nowadays you have computers with all sorts of software. You have free software, you have software you can pay for, and you can use it like that. Uh, some people like making digital music, they like making, or some other people prefer analog music, and myself, I'm not too fussy over it. I like using both actually. Uh, I used to use a laptop as a sampler, so I could always drive these different layers of music into it. And even nowadays, I use some digital equipment, such as yeah, even an old phone to drive audio out, or MP3 player to drive audio out. But I always also like analog equipment, so I still use some old Walkmans or cassette tape decks as an input, or some other analog devices to put it together. And as you'll be able to see later on, like I like preparing and connecting stuff physically together. So you might see a lot of cables in my set, and all that is interconnected for different pedals, which are of course analog, and then it goes into a real mixer. So uh, that being said, I'm not an extreme fan of doing everything on the computer, because I think this little creativity can just be lost. Uh, I guess if, yeah, I know some people are using one or two laptops at the same time and they can do stuff with it. Well, hopefully they know how to use it and they know how to use the software correctly, or they know what they're doing. So that's fine, but yeah, I still kind of prefer to use both, a little bit of both, but would tend to go more towards analog rather than completely digital at the moment.
Awesome. So maybe we could hear the music and then we can hear you do it, and then I could share how I feel after you've shared it. You know what I mean? Instead of us just talking about
Hmm.
there's no
Yeah,
substitute for experiencing it. Yeah.
it's true. It's
Are you
true. It's true.
ready?
I can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Uh, I I can do it now, or if you want, we can talk a little bit more, and I can do shorter set later on. Or are you very keen to listen to it?
Yeah, we could listen and then talk a bit more about it so that there's it's more concrete. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
more tangible, right?
Yeah.
Or unless you want to say
Uh,
something before you do it.
yeah. Well, one comment, yeah, about that live, yeah. So playing live is really really cool. But nowadays, unfortunately, because this noise music or whatever you call it, noise or harsh noise or whatever, uh, if it's organized live nowadays, there's very, very few people coming to see it live, unfortunately. Uh, about 10, 20 years ago, when, yeah, I'll just comment a little bit on social media, yeah? So there was no such thing as social media, or it was very, very different. Uh, People communicated differently, news spread around differently, and people were actually going out a little bit more, in my opinion. And nowadays, even if you're using whatever social media is out there and people say, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna come to your gig, I'm gonna see you live, actually, like, very, very low percentage of those people who promise to be there actually show up there. uh, and they're kind of missing this, they're missing this live experience, as you pointed out earlier. And I think that's a very important thing you get, uh, when you listen to
Yeah,
live
yeah,
performances, when you
and
actually meet people and talk to them rather than over social media. So it's a bit of a lack of, I don't know, personal experience in there, in my opinion. Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree. And you were talking about analog earlier. When I attend live events, there's this like feedback loop,
Mm,
right? Like if I'm watching something alone in my room through a screen, the only feedback I get is from the screen, right? Or
yeah,
from
yeah,
the text or the video. But if I'm in a room, I'm feeling the thing that's happening there. I could feel people at my back. I could smell the sweat.
yeah,
I could, you know what I mean? It's much, it's
yeah,
such a multimodal experience. And I think there's no substitute for that. And people are talking about VR,
uh,
but still, I don't think there's something
yeah. I completely agree with you, and yeah, it's this. However, you will digitalize everything in the future, you will still lack this real experience of present, you know. Especially as you said, it's not just sound, and you can smell it and you can feel it. And for example, if uh, you have a good PA, you can also feel the sound, and if if it has a good like bass system, you can actually feel it in your stomach, and and you can feel it in your gut, and everything is growling and moving, and that kind of experience. So physical experience, yeah. And with virtual reality, I'm not sure, I think the closest think the closest at the moment is kind of experience of sensations, So it's still in early stages at the moment, but you can sense stuff in virtual reality, but it's not as real as the real experience. But that might change in the future. Give it another 10 years or 20 years or something. Um, but that being said, yeah, why in a way,
yeah, I
why would
mean,
you still digitalize stuff? If you can just go out and hang out with people and talk to them and experience it live, it's still possible. It's still possible.
yeah, and you can do both. And yeah, it's a bit strange. Like instead of people spending billions and creating, I don't know, VR, maybe spend some of that money to create public spaces that's not overcommercialized. I think, yeah, London is this idea of cuts where you can just eat your lunch. You know what I mean? You don't have to like. It's different in places like maybe the states where it's or in the Philippines where I grew up. It's more mall culture. So all the
Mm,
public spaces are inside commercial establishments. Whereas in a city
mm,
like London, you have little parks. It's anyone can go there, right? Which is good. You don't have to be a customer. You don't have to buy coffee and shit like that in that. So maybe some of the
yeah,
money
that's right. Yeah.
could spend in creating amazing spaces where people could perform and people could just drop in randomly, instead of creating all this spectacle of, yeah,
Mm.
this I could go on a whole rant on this because right now there's a lot. You need permits, you need insurance. There's so many things just to do something.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Whereas in the past, you could just set up, do it in the town square, and everyone's fine with it,
Mm.
right? It become
Yeah.
too institutionalized. It's a weird kind of phenomena. I find. Yeah.
Mm. Well, I think it's similar. I would say throughout Europe as well, because if you organize something, it's called a public event. And you're right, for a public event, you need insurance, you need this, you need that, you need, uh, permits, you need permissions and stuff like that. There's a big issue on copyright as well, because you have to make sure you're not playing anything copyrighted, that it's your own work, or if it's copyrighted, you will pay the copyright rights to the copyright, whatever it is, commission or something like that. And there you go. Everything is turned around because of money. Not because of uh, event where people will hang out, as you said. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, and on that issue of intellectual property, we forget that the
mm,
people who got those copyright, they themselves use materials from the past. It's not like they came up with this from
yeah.
zero.
Mm,
They're part of this whole tradition,
yeah.
right? And then they're just the ones who had the resources, or they got picked up by a record company. Yeah, so I think,
Mm,
yeah, I think that's important, and I think that's a fight we have to do in the future, is to have more commons, more open. Like, thank God there's open source in software and other stuff. Otherwise,
mm,
it will be like that. Like, you can't even, like, someone can listen to, let's say, a folk song and then copyright it, and then the people, the community who came up with the folk song will have to pay them. It's like, it can be weird like that, right?
yeah, 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 yeah. It's true, yeah. And that's one of the reasons my music or sounds I make, I never copyrighted. I don't have any or own any copyrights on it, because I don't like it and I don't agree with this system. I'm more open to a thing called Creative Commons or copyleft. It's called copyleft, or just anti-copyright and stuff like that. And I think if people create their own sounds, create their own music, it doesn't have to be copyrighted. Uh, but that being said, again, why is it copyrighted? Why is it like that? It's because of money. And because major companies or major labels or bigger labels, uh, they like to put a caveat in there called copyright, so it means they own it. They sometimes own even bands, because bands sometimes don't own any songs, so labels own them. But sometimes some artists, they get royalties, from being played on line or live or whatever, and there you go. That's where the money comes in, and the money will. And I think me personally, I think that's not necessary. Why would you need something like that if you know uh, you can create something and you can listen to something and you get appreciation for it? Well, hopefully at some point. or you just do it for fun, and then it gets picked up or not. Uh,
Yeah, and yeah, I'm a big fan of functions lust, where you just you do something because I do something because I want to do it, and the reward is in the doing of the thing,
yeah,
instead of
yeah,
this.
no,
I do this so I can do that, so I can feel that, and I could like layers. It should be like I'm
mm,
doing something, like I'm talking to you right now because I want to do it, and the reward is in the talking, And then people ask, "Oh, who's
mm,
listening?" I don't care who's listening. I don't care who's subscribing. I just care that I'm having this human to human communication
yeah, yeah, it's
in
true.
between continents, and
Mm,
that's magic enough. It doesn't need to be monetized or whatever. And
mm,
I think
yeah,
sometimes you
but
overcomplicate stuff. The internet should be so fun when it's organic. Now it's all hyper algorithms. Like, come on, this is just a medium for everyone. Don't make it too
mm,
scientific with all this marketing shit everywhere.
yeah, it's true,
I'm,
it's true. And that being said,
I'm
why do
ready
you
to
have
hear.
stuff like reality shows or live interviews with famous people? Because they're famous and they're already famous and they want or need to be more famous uh, for their music, for their product to sell. So, for example, I bet if you did an interview with, I don't know, Madonna or Beyonce, they would probably ask you for 10 grand, to talk. For example. So, that's where the money
Yeah,
comes in,
and I don't even know what I'm gonna talk with them.
Yeah. That's another thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Because
funny thing
then
when.
they're public figures and they have to keep that, keep that wheel going. And, sometimes those artists are not themselves anymore, they just become some sort of
Yeah,
product
it's
or an
being
art or,
controlled. Yeah, although Madonna's been good in reinventing herself. I think she's a genius in herself. So I mean,
Yeah,
there's
that was
nothing
just
in
an example. Yeah, nothing
that.
personal to those artists. Yeah, it's just a disclaimer so I don't get sued. Yeah,
Yeah, I think she lives in London or in the UK now. Yeah, I think she lives there where you are now. So you might bump
yeah,
into
that would
her.
be cool. I wouldn't mind that. It's the other way around. Well, you
Hey.
know, if famous people don't mind hanging out with regular people, then it's fine. But I'm not sure that would happen. That's for another day, yeah, I guess.
Well, it happened to me when it happened to me when I was there. A friend of mine, I had dinner at his place, and he had a guest who was one of the Monty Python. So I just had dinner with him and his girlfriend, and it was
Mm,
just cool. It's just like they're just like normal people. We just talk about stuff,
mm,
and he actually liked singing, so he was singing on the table. It was a bit weird, but it was fun.
mm, mm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
they're people
but
too, and I also like it when you hang out with them like they're normal people, that you don't go
yeah,
ah,
yeah,
because
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
bit weird
exactly.
as
Yeah,
well. Yeah, yeah,
uh, uh,
yeah. So
and
that
you're
was
right. Yeah,
fun.
for famous people, it's hard to stay normal if they're famous. Because yeah, you're right. If they can't go to certain places, or it's harder to
People
go to
just
certain
look at
places
you.
because
Yeah,
they can't take the bus or the train, without people reacting and being hyper about it. So it's harder. It's harder.
it's like ooh, it's like a blessing in the curse.
It's like, oh, Madonna, and then the 1,000 people on the train want to,
Oh,
get
that's my
photographed at the same
charge.
time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like who?
Just he's balloons. Can you autograph my balloon?
Yeah.
Shall we? Shall we see? Shall we
We
hear and
can
see
indeed.
the
Yeah,
thing?
yeah,
Are
yeah.
you ready?
Just give me a
Awesome.
minute.
Let me make you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
I
make
just
you
need to.
the center stage. Yeah, there it
Okay.
is.
Alright. There. So
Well, you're setting
prepare.
a bit. You're from Slovenia, right?
There we go. A bit lower down. How does that go?
Cool. You're from Slovenia originally, right? You grew up in
Yes, that's
Slovenia.
right. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
What do you think
Uh,
of Slavoj Žižek?
uh, yeah, he's quite funny at times. You know, he has his own ideas, and I think like many other Slovenians, he overgrew the Slovenian audience and he went global. You know, so it's good. He gets a bit more attention. Globally, like America and Europe, and I heard a lot of people are following him. So it's good, you know, it's good. It's good to break boundaries, and it's good
I like him because
to get your word out there. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. I just want to say I like
yeah.
him because he just does his thing and he doesn't care. All
Well,
right,
doesn't
we could
care. Yeah,
listen now to the thing.
it's at the stage, you know, where whatever you say, in a way, whatever you say, it's cool, or even if you're right or wrong, just because you're saying it. But that goes under free speech, yeah, doesn't it? And if people agree or don't
Yeah, yeah,
agree,
and that's what
or
we need. We need everyone's voices.
exactly, yeah, yeah. So he broke through those circles of, you know, smallness and went into bigness. And when you're in this bigness, then you can express yourself, you know, without any uh, limits. You know, okay, then the consequences sometimes might be different what people say. Uh, but he's a philosopher, you know, he can get out of anything then, I guess.
That's true. We are, yeah.
Uh,
All right, let's see the
okay,
event.
let me see. Find my headset. Yeah. Let me see if this will be working at all. Okay. Yeah. So it might just take me a minute
Yeah, that's cool. Just
to do
it's
the
part of the
settings.
event.
Yeah.
This is part. Hello, folks. This is part of the performance.
Ah,
The
yeah.
setting up is a big part
Me
of it.
looking at the camera. Yeah. Um,
Yes. What
no, okay.
software do you
I
use for mixing?
I installed the sound card yesterday and I tested it on Skype. So input from my mixer was working fine. But then what we're using today is not Skype, so it doesn't seem to have any other inputs than just microphone. Okay.
That might be true. Let's see.
Let me check my settings. Sorry, it's
Settings.
taking a while just to. And again, yeah, it's always technology and software you're not used to. Okay, let's see. Sound.
There's just,
Okay,
I don't know,
let's
there's
do a test.
maybe the audio output. Yeah.
So let me know if you hear anything, otherwise it will all... Yeah, no, it's still on. Hmm. Yeah, I have output coming out, but nothing is coming in.
Maybe we can just use the speakers. It might not be as good, but yeah,
Okay, what we can
maybe.
do, I can bring my, it might sound a bit not so good, but I can bring my speakers and I'll put my speakers in here and you can listen stuff coming out of speakers if that's not the best
Yeah,
option,
it's just,
but
and then we'll do another one later.
unfortunately with your software there, yeah, it just has microphone as an input. Didn't expect that to have. Okay, so
Yeah,
I'll just
but
grab my speakers there. Just give me 1 minute, yeah.
okay.
Okay, there we are. Hopefully it's gonna be working. You can let me know. Unplug this. Sorry
I've
about
been
that.
making
Yeah.
my own sounds.
Sorry about that. And okay,
No worries.
let's do this now. Yeah, you should hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we could hear that.
Okay, so it's not the perfect setup now, but is it okay or is there too much feedback?
No, no, it's good. It's good.
Okay, let's make it work. Everything else. Sorry for a bit of mess with this, but yeah,
It's part of the happening. It can
isn't
only
it? Yeah.
happen once.
Okay, let's. So for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Is this mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the sound is not as good, but anyway, we could do it. So we could redo the sound thing next time. Yeah.
Yeah, ideally, yeah. Sorry about the bad sound quality, but
No worries.
ideally it would go through the
Let's do
sound card.
yeah. So next time we'll use Skype. Yeah, we'll see if that's
Yeah, it
better.
was working
Yeah.
fine on Skype. Yeah. Okay, so I tend to perform
Yeah,
more
we'll do
than.
that.
Yeah. Okay,
Let's
let
do
me
it. Let's do
stop.
it. And then maybe you could have the camera above.
Uh, yeah. So just to follow up, yeah. So you go first. Yeah. What did you think? Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that good because of the sound thing. So maybe we'll try it again later because
Hmm.
the sound wasn't coming. I couldn't really feel all the textures. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm.
So so maybe let's do it again, and then we could then talk about it better. I can't do it justice because I didn't get the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah, but it was good.
Yeah. Maybe we can do a separate video on that, and then you can maybe copy it in or something. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, we could do that, or we could just do the performance and then talk about it after. Yeah, let's do that.
Or that. Yeah. Or that. Yeah.
But it was good. But
But
yeah, yeah, but it was good to talk about this,
uh,
and yeah, we could always do more with this. It's not. This is not the end.
nice. I like to hear that. And you're absolutely right. It is about
Yeah, yeah,
these textures, so sound textures, So when you have, well, in my concept, yeah, when I have sound, I like to bring all these different layers in, and it's about textures and uh, I like the details in the texture, so ideally you should hear every little change in the texture over a different layer. And
yeah.
yeah,
The speaker thing didn't work. I think.
yeah, it's yeah, you can't do much with small portable speakers. But yeah, that's the idea. It's these
Yeah, no,
textures
and it doesn't
and
go to
it's
yeah.
yeah, and it's one texture on top of another or in parallel, and it makes something nice out of it. Well, in my opinion. Uh, why I like doing it, yeah? People ask,
Yeah,
well,
I
why
agree.
do I have this concept? Uh, is to is because to me it brings a certain stillness in sound, and in this stillness, everything else is moving around. So you have sound going around, but there's this stillness in it, you know. And yeah, and to be honest, not many people notice textures, because you have to listen to it carefully. Because if you don't, some people just say, "Oh, it's too loud" or "It's disturbing," and when it's disturbing, they have a reaction to it, and then they close to it. They're not open to it. So if they're open to it, then they maybe get a bit different experience out of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's how I listen to
let's leave
sound with
that
my
for
whole
an.
body. Yeah,
So yeah. That's right. Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah. Let's
you can
do a
imagine how.
proper one where I could
Sorry.
feel it. Yeah,
Hmm. Uh,
I was saying this is another one where I could really observe,
and you can
and then we could talk
imagine
about it
if you
in a
were sitting
better.
live,
Yeah,
in front of a speaker or in front of a couple of amplifiers, you could really experience it, and it's really tangible then. It's more, yeah, I guess as we said earlier, it's more real. You get something real out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is just a practice. So let's do it properly next time.
And for example, for this occasion, I use the bit unique equipment, so I can use the same layers or the same textures, but they don't sound the same, which depends how I connect or interconnect everything together. Uh, and For today, I prepared some analog sources and some digital, so it's a combination of both. Yeah.
Cool.
Can show you, yeah, still using the old Walkman, as well as MP3 player. So I like
Cool.
combinations, you know, together. And I might get some other gadgets and electronic gadgets in the
Awesome.
future. So I might bring that into the sound. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's set it up offline, and then we'll do it again. I look forward to it.
Hmm. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Thank you, Doctor, and enjoy the rest of your London summer. Summer's day.
Thank, thank you for inviting me, and I hope we can continue. We can catch up at some other point
Yeah,
and do more of this, yeah, and talk about other things as well.
yeah. And we haven't even touched on meditation, but that's for another day.
Yeah. It is indeed, yes.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're
Have a good
welcome.
day.
Thank you. You too. You too. Thanks. Bye bye. Bye.
Bye.